Jim Jordan was elected the first time in 2006, and now he's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. He was an early backer of the Tea Party. Remember those older than middle-aged half-wits who only wanted one thing from the U.S. government, and that was an extension of their Social Security, and their Medicare, but everything else where it involved the benefit for other people, the Tea Partiers wanted that all eliminated because, after all, they were, patriots like the Boston Tea Party members, and their goal was to bring about the solvency of the United States after it had been so decimated and destroyed by, the liberals, right? Well, that's where this little pissant, Jim Jordan, got his start. Early endorser of the Tea Party. And he was also a founder of the hardcore, they're called austerity crusaders, the Freedom Caucus. The Freedom Caucus is ostensibly libertarian in their outlook, in that they don't think the federal government should do anything except defend the country. No Medicare, no Medicaid, no school funds, no infrastructure, no Social Security, none of that. That's all communism. So during the Obama years, too, the thing about Jim Jordan, he was always at the center of any effort to try to blow up his administration, the Obama administration. But when the Orange Vomit got elected, Jim Jordan ran interference for Trump during his many scandals. And as Heather Digby reports in Salon, quote, "From Tea Party to Freedom Caucus to MAGA for the last 16 years, Jim Jordan has been the quintessential far-right Republican in whatever permutation that is at a given time." Yeah, far-right Republican. I appreciate Heather Digby Parton. I appreciate her point of view and her writing skills, but I would never use the term far-right Republican. These are fascists. And I think Heather understands that. Maybe Salon has a style book that says, now don't call them fascists. It was Jordan who was involved in the efforts to get rid of John Boehner, or as I used to affectionately call him, John Boner. When Jordan was a member of the Freedom Caucus, Boner came up with a name for Jim Jordan, called him a legislative terrorist, which is really accurate description of Jim Jordan. And Jordan led a couple of efforts to do the same thing to John Boner's successor, Paul Ryan. And it was Jim Jordan who was part of the plots in both 2011 and 2013 to shut down the government and hold the debt ceiling hostage in order to force spending cuts and repeal Obamacare. Goddamn Obamacare. Making health care available to millions of Americans. Why, that's communism. But the one thing that we can all remember Jordan about, at least I do, his specialty, has been his vicious, interruptive, hateful, violent questioning of Democrats as a member of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees. That's what Jordan likes to do. Takes off his old sport coat and sits there in his shirt sleeves and gives them old Billy hell, doesn't he? Oh, look at me. I know how to handle these Democrats. Jordan is a true sociopath. He's sending his Christian fascist party on wild goose chase after wild goose chase, and which is fine with me. I just hope media will give it the sort of coverage that this kind of garbage, this kind of malfeasance, this kind of insanity warrants. I just hope. As Heather Digby Parton reports from Salon, back in 2015, Jordan harangued in a hearing, Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards, remember that? And the reason he went after her, because she made a formal apology on behalf of her organization. And Jim Jordan was insisting the apology wasn't good enough. But that was just, that was the warm-up. Who can forget the garbage-mouthed bastard Jim Jordan when he grilled the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton during that infamous 11-hour marathon interrogation about the Benghazi attacks in 2015? Dear God, do you remember that? He accused her of lying. He suggested that she personally tried to cover up the attacks because the Libya mission was supposed to look like a big success. But in both those instances, whether it was Cecile Richards or Hillary Clinton, the women he attacked more than held their own against this little bastard, even though the Christian fascists said that Jim Jordan was a hero. Oh, yay. Look what he did to Cecile Richards. Look what he did to Hillary Clinton. Ah! And then during some of the most vile years in the history of the modern history of U.S. presidency, during the Trump years, Jim Jordan was out there as a total Trump accomplice in everything he tried to do. From pushing for the impeachment of the acting Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, over the Mueller investigation. It was Jim Jordan who led the congressional defense against Trump's double impeachments. And according to Heather, he was so close to Trump that he spoke with him personally for 10 minutes on the morning of January 6th and then refused to honor a subpoena from the J6 committee seeking to question him about what these two gangsters said. Oh, and by the way, his good butt buddy Kevin McCarthy actually had the nerve to try to place him on that committee, that J6 committee. Remember that? Which inspired then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to veto the choice and tell him to get the hell out for obvious reasons. So that was then. This is now, and Heather Digby Parton, I should say, at Salon brings us up to speed here. She writes, as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jordan will be leading a potential impeachment of the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, simply because they just have to impeach some people, and he seems to be the first in line. Mayorkas. I might mention that Mayorkas is also a Jew, so there is another reason for this racist, anti-Semitic prick, Jim Jordan, to go after Alejandro Mayorkas, because he's a Jew. Jordan has already issued subpoenas to Joe Biden's administration after he refused to honor subpoenas. I hope whoever gets one, the Biden administration, just gives Jim Jordan the middle finger. I mean, seriously. But Biden, through these subpoenas, is demanding documents for an investigation into the government's alleged treatment of parents as terrorists when it issued directives to look into people who are threatening school officials with violence over mask mandates and imaginary critical race theory curriculum. Do you remember that? When the scum and the filth, the sewer rats on the Fox sewer and people like Jordan and the rest of these scum said that all kinds of bad shit was happening in the schools. Oh my God, they're going to teach them about Negroes. Oh no. And about queers. Oh no. And they're going to make them wear masks. Oh, no. So some of these brain-dead, half-witted, asinine parents would show up at school board meetings demanding that their little white angels not be taught that there were Negroes around or queer people around. And nobody ever heard of slavery. What's that about? And the critical race theory, I know, that's communism. None of this shit was happening, but this is what the sewer rats at Fox and the rest of these garbage dumps, this is what they put into the heads of these ridiculously stupid and ignorant Americans. So now Jordan is saying that those parents who then left the school board meetings went home and started threatening death threats, property destruction, all kinds of shit against the school board members or against anybody who would speak out against these nutcases. So now Jordan wants the investigators who had to follow up on those threats investigated because, law enforcement had dubbed them as terrorists, which is bullshit. Nobody ever called these parents terrorists, except people like me. I mean, I called them terrorists, but I don't have any police power. I'm not in the judiciary. Critical race theory curriculum. And as Heather points out, Republicans, or I call them Christian fascists, apparently believe that such behavior, death threats, property threats, are part of parental rights. It's beyond insane. So anyway, these subpoenas that Jim Jordan is getting ordered. This is the first salvo in what he has promised will be his mission. His mission. He said he plans to take on the Department of Justice. Why? Because the Christian fascists believe it's a hotbed of liberal activists out to use the long arm of the law to silence these good Christians wherever they are found. Right? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. The Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.